Good evening, everyone. I'm Eric Hayden with the Weather Service in Morehead City, joined by Stacy Miles, Deputy Director from Onslow County. Appreciate Stacy joining us tonight. I know a lot of people are busy getting outside and doing stuff. It's been such a nice couple of days of nice weather after we had all that rain. So tonight's talk is going to be a lot about hurricane preparedness and all the impacts that we can see across Onslow County. Stacy's on to field any questions. So I'm going to show you here in a second how you can ask questions. You can ask them throughout the talk. You can also raise your hand and I can call on you and unmute your mic. So at any point, if you've got a question about anything, just ask it through the question dialogue area, or you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. And then Stacy will be here to field any questions that are county specific in terms of hurricane preparedness and what the county has to offer. As far as the microphones go, you are all muted, so you don't have to worry about any background noise. Like I said, I will call on you if you raise your hand. There should be a feature. Let me turn on my little, I've got a pointer thing right here, this raised hand feature. If you click on that, I will be able to see that you've raised your hand. I will unmute you and you can ask the question verbally. If you don't want to do that, no problem. You can just ask a question through this question box right here. I will get them. And just to make sure that's working, I see David and Elizabeth and a few other folks online. Just comment where you're watching from in the county or maybe outside the county. Nobody else sees it except Stacy or I. Just want to make sure the question part is working for tonight's talk. As far as the presentation goes, if you have to step away for dinner, got to put the kids to bed, or you have a technical issue, no problem at all. In the handout section, we have this PDF so you can download now. In addition, the whole thing is being recorded, just our presentation part, not you on camera or anything, and we will post that to YouTube by tomorrow afternoon. So since you've signed up, you can download the PDF now, or you can wait for the video recording tomorrow. So at this point, Stacy, I think I don't see any questions, so you can go ahead and turn your mic and camera off, and then Stacy will be in the background if we've got anything that comes up county specific. And again, don't be shy. If you got a question, go ahead and ask them in the question box, and we will certainly get to it. It looks like we're just about 7:02. Want to go over some of the logistics and wait for folks to log on because we're all busy these days, and make sure we give everybody a chance to log on when they can. So my name is Eric Hayden. Like I said, I'm a meteorologist with the Weather Service just down the road from you in Newport, Morehead City. We cover Onslow County. I see David, a couple others chimed in where they're watching from. So we've got folks from Onslow County and also Craven County. Fantastic. So this talk is really for all of Eastern North Carolina, and we're going to focus on some of the impacts and some of the things you should keep in mind with this current hurricane season. As far as our local office is concerned, we cover all of Eastern North Carolina. So we're located in Newport, but Craven County, Onslow County, Jacksonville, Richlands, the whole county itself, you're on the edge of our forecast area. And then just over the county line, Pender County, New Hanover, the folks down in the Wilmington office cover that region. You'll notice that that yellow shaded area does go out into the water. So the local sounds and rivers, so Onslow Bay we cover, also the Crystal Coast up through Emerald Isle and Cape Lookout. So we roughly covered the eastern quarter of North Carolina. As far as work goes, we are 24/7. Much like a lot of us this past year, some of us have been at home, like where I am now. Some of us have been at work. We change our staffing depending on the weather. We do rotating shifts, so a day shift, an evening shift, and an overnight shift. And we'll ramp up for bad weather and then kind of ramp down for quiet weather or weekends and overnights. So we always have two of us there, but during Isaias last year, we had the whole staff with some folks supporting from home. So it really depends on what's going on, especially weather-wise. And it's very similar to police and fire and first responders in that, you know, the weather doesn't happen just during the weekday. It can occur on holidays and weekends, and certainly in the middle of the night. A couple things I want you to get out of this presentation. The first thing is our website, weather.gov/Morehead City. And for those just joining us, again, you can download this PDF in the handout section at any time. So if you want to write this down, go for it, but you will have a copy of this either downloaded tonight or sent to you tomorrow. Our website is really, really good with a lot of information. When you go to it, it will be focused on Eastern North Carolina. In fact, if you just remember weather.gov, you can click on anywhere in the United States. If you click on our area, you'll get the local page that way. If you click on the map itself or enter a city or zip code in the upper left, you can get a detailed forecast for that area. That includes an hourly weather graph, a 7-day forecast, and the radar and satellite as needed. My homework for you is go to this site and bookmark this site, and then zoom into where you live and bookmark that. And then just bring that up every day when you want to know about the upcoming weather. The main site is good to have because you can see this icon at the top, the tropical page. We're going to talk a lot about that, along with some other key features that you can get from the main page itself. Raise your hand virtually if you're on social media. Again, a lot of us are. We use it for different ways. We're all over the place, from YouTube to Twitter, Facebook, and now on Instagram. If you just search NWS Morehead City, that's how you can find us. And how we like to use social media is to really wave our hands and drive your focus to what you should be paying attention to. Our website is great. There's a lot of information on it. Sometimes you've got to do some searching and diving into the site to find out what's going on headline-wise. And that's where we use social media. So this is a tweet I did. I'll never forget it. The morning well before landfall of Florence, we were getting a lot of phone calls into the office. Should people come back to the area? Should we let our guard down? Because the category, the number on Florence went from a 4 down to a 1. And we're going to talk about how that's only related to wind here in a second. But this is a tweet we sent out. Our impacts have not changed with catastrophic flooding. Specifically, do not let your guard down, and the category is only related to wind. So again, that's just kind of giving you the example. We really use social media to hone in on our message going forward. The example on the right is briefings. These are briefings we do to first responders, core partners, emergency managers, and we take the presentation part and edit it out and then post it to YouTube. So there's a lot of information there. It's not something you're going to view in 30 seconds. It's 5-10 minutes long, very, very in depth, but also very, very local. So big thing to get out of that, weather.gov/Morehead City. This is a hurricane presentation. The time to prepare for hurricane season is now. I would say the same thing if I gave this talk earlier this month, or if I gave it earlier in the month of May. And this is the reason why. This is a graphic that shows the peak of hurricanes and tropical storms, which is in red, and the peak of hurricanes is roughly about the middle of September, around the 10th. But you can see from August 1st on, we really, really sharply go up. But from this, we've seen that we've had storms as early as May. Think back to last year. We had Tropical Storm Arthur. We have a bunch of them around the peak, including Dorian and Florence in the last couple of years. And then we've had storms into October and November with Matthew and Sandy. What should you get out of this graphic? Hurricane season starts June 1st, but you should be thinking about preparation as early as May because we can get storms early. If we get through the summer, you're new to the area, oh, we're through, we don't have to worry about any hurricanes this year. Don't let your guard down. It's well into the fall that we can have hurricanes and tropical cyclones around here. So please remember that, especially if you're new to the area or are not used to hurricane season. If you want good information on preparation, you can find that on our website. If you just add the word hurricane prep to the website name, you will be sent to our page. We model this after Hurricane Awareness Week. So one day goes over what you should have, one day goes over know your zone and evacuation zones. So you can find out even more about Onslow or Craven County if you're on from up there. One goes into flooding and tornadoes and rip currents, all the impacts we can have. So a lot of really good information there. We like to focus on the kit. These are things you certainly want to have: food, water, and medicine. And a couple things to think of. We used to say 3 days, at least the bare minimum of supplies that you can be on your own for at least 3 days. We saw what happened with Florence, with the flooding across the county and our area, really kind of pushing you to a week. I know that seems like a lot. Financially speaking, you might not be able to go to the store this weekend and get everything. That's okay. Take little baby steps each weekend you go to the store. For example, this weekend on your grocery list, put, as you're writing stuff down, put, I need a case of water. Then next weekend, pick up some non-perishable goods. Then the following weekend, Perhaps you want to make sure your batteries and your supplies are there in case the power goes out. Little baby steps won't be as much of a financial hit, and then you'll be well prepared as we get into the bulk of hurricane season. So keep that in mind. It can be pretty daunting if you try to get everything at once, but little steps, and then you'll certainly have that together. And one more thing I should say about the evacuation, you really want to think about your plan now. I'm gonna go back a step. We don't tell you when to evacuate the Weather Service, but we want you to be prepared. So I always tell folks, the way I do it, I've got 3 younger kids. I live just to the east of you in Carteret County, and our family has a kit that can sustain us for 7 days. So that's plan A. And then our plan B is, where are we going to go? So I grew up in Maryland, so that's one area. We can go stay with my parents. And then we have family in Columbia, South Carolina. That's another place we can go. You'll notice that a shelter is not on my plan because I have a cat, I have pets. You have to think about those things now. Where are you going to go to? A lot of shelters may not take pets. If you have pets, what hotels can you go to? What family do you have inland? You want to think about those things now. So then when the storm is 3, 4, 5 days out, it's, hey, I'm going to stay. Here's my kit, or I'm going to go, and that's where I'm going to go. You don't want to think about those things when the storm's happening. You want to think about them June 24th and not the end of August into September. To help you with that plan, especially as we get closer to a storm, you have access to weather briefings on our website. So again, weather.gov/MoreheadCity. I mentioned toward the bottom of the page, there's a lot of different icons, and one of them is called Weather Hazard Briefing. If you click on that, you'll get a PDF file of what we expect. If there's a hurricane, severe weather, winter storm, big stuff. If you go to our page today and click on that, you won't see anything because we don't expect any widespread significant weather across the area the next couple days. So that's only if we've got weather upcoming. So at this point, it's about 7:12. We got through weather.gov/MoreheadCity. The next couple slides are going to talk about official sources of information. But if we've got any questions, please go ahead and ask that in the queue, the questions part, and then I'll field them to Stacy, or I will take them myself as well. So just a couple comments from the group. The one person said that is also another native Maryland person, so hello to you. This person mentioned living in the western part of the state. So I grew up just south of Baltimore, so certainly fond memories. And the person that mentioned where they grew up, I liked that area because you all got a lot of snow toward the panhandle of Maryland into Stacy's favorite state, West Virginia. So again, if you have any questions, just ask those in the question box. I want you to focus on official sources of information this summer and fall. You've all probably seen this graphic on the left. We call it the spaghetti model. I skipped dinner, so I am definitely starving, especially when I see this pile of spaghetti here. But this is what I'm referring to. These are various weather models of what could happen with a particular storm. Where they're really close together here in the lower right-hand part of the graphic, our confidence is higher because they're all saying the same thing. Where there's a spread, where some take this system out to sea and some take it to Florida, just means that we're not as confident because the models are kind of all over the place. It has utility. The problem is when it's shared on social media and people just see this graphic, they think that is the forecast. And these are just various models. So if you live in Florida, you're worried about this one. If you're in Jacksonville, you're thinking about this. And if you're coming down to Jacksonville, you want these out to sea. What you need to focus on is the official forecast cone from the Hurricane Center. You can get this from the local news. You can get this from Weather Channel, AccuWeather, Weather Nation. They're all showing official sources. And the reason why I want you to focus on that is almost 200 years of experience at the Hurricane Center. They are looking at those spaghetti models and they're making an official forecast. And they make slight tweaks and adjustments so that you don't have a drastic change from forecast to forecast as the storm approaches. So you might say, well, Eric, you work for the Weather Service. Of course, you're going to say follow your information. Why should we? Here's some statistics. I want to go back a little ways to 1999, one of our more significant storms, Hurricane Floyd, and contrast that with Dorian just a couple years ago. In that 20-year time frame, I want to show you how far we've come. And what this graphic is, it's the difference in 3-day track in terms of error back in 1999 and then versus 2019. So this huge circle represents our average error 3 days out in 1999. So if I was talking to Miss Stacy and Mr. Norman about, hey, we have a storm approaching Onslow County. In 1999, the most accurate thing I could tell them at the time with the forecast cone was the center could pass anywhere over Southeast Virginia, anywhere in the Carolinas, and even Eastern Georgia. That was the science in 1999. That was the best we could do 3 days out. Now in 2019, when a storm is 3 days away from us, we can say with good confidence that the center is most likely to pass somewhere over southeastern North Carolina. Just shows you that the forecast track has certainly improved through the years. And if you've watched it, we're going to talk about the forecast cone. That is not dependent on the storm. It is based on statistical error. So each year it gets smaller and smaller and smaller because of those forecasts becoming more accurate. In a second, I'm going to talk about some things that we don't do so well at and why I want you not to let your guard down with some specifics to track and also storm surge. So this is another graphic I'm going to show you. This is the most graphic-y we'll get in terms of weather, but I think it's a good one. One of the most common questions I get is comparing the European model, this ECMWF, to the American model, which is the GFS, and just modeling in general. So this graph shows consistency on the x-axis and track error on the y. You want to be accurate, obviously, but you also want to be consistent. If I tell Onslow County the storm is going to miss us, the storm's going to get us. The storm is going to miss us, the storm is going to get us. How can they prepare the folks of Onslow County for what to expect? We have to be consistent. So that's where the Hurricane Center comes in, looks at all these models, and they make subtle changes and ease us in one direction or the other so that we don't do the windshield wiper effect where we're going back and forth. So back to this graphic. On the x-axis, the closer you get to the lower left of it, you are more consistent. On the y-axis is error. The closer you get to this corner, you have less error. So you want to be in the bottom left, the most consistent and the least amount of error. You don't want to be in the upper right. That's inconsistent and lots of error. And the one that's closest to the good corner, the lower left, is NHC, which stands for National Hurricane Center. In the middle, European model and GFS, very, very useful. But again, it's an operation model. Even when we're looking at the various solutions, it can change run to run. That's where a human comes in and says, okay, I know it's bouncing around, but let's just nudge the track a little bit this way or make adjustments this way. Very, very important for the forecast itself. So we're doing really well with the hurricane track. With that said, a hurricane has so many aspects that can impact you. We're going to talk about all the impacts, but all the aspects that can change leading up to landfall that make a huge difference on who gets the worst part of the storm. So even if it is accurate scientifically, realistically in the county, you can still see a big change from Sneads Ferry to all the way over to Swansboro, depending on does it hit to the right of us or does it hit to the left of us? Because remember, the right side of the storm has the momentum of the storm moving in addition to the storm itself. Here's the example. This is Hurricane Laura last year. This is the Gulf Coast. This is Texas and southern Louisiana. Don't worry about the colors yet. Focus on these lines. This dark purple line is what the actual track of Laura was. So that is what the track with the storm was. The dotted line on the left is a blue line. That is a simulated track of Laura had it been 20 miles farther west. 20 miles is not much, maybe roughly from the Onslow border with Carteret over to Jacksonville. That's a hop, skip, and a jump. That's a nothing. That's not much of a change. So what if Laura was 20 miles to the west or to the left in this case? This dark, more like not magenta, but darkish red color in southern Louisiana is 10 to 15 feet higher storm surge based on that jog to the west by 20 miles. This, 10 to 15. This salmon color, lighter pink shading, is 5 to 10 feet higher. So you can have a 5 to 15 foot difference in storm surge based on a 20-mile change in the track. That still would be well within our forecast accuracy that still would be a fantastic forecast. But this is what the emergency managers look at, and county officials, when they look at our forecast and we talk about storm surge. We're going to talk about that in a second. We give a reasonable worst case scenario, 10% chance. Not everyone's going to see that, but we take into account wobbles, shifts, and change in strength. So when you decide to leave the county and you come back and it's not as bad as you thought, that's okay, because you're still here and you're safe to make those thoughts after the storm. We do not want you getting caught off guard with a change of 5 to 15 feet of storm surge. That is life-threatening for sure. So please keep that in mind. A couple more websites, and then we're going to dive into the impacts and then turn it over to you. Just a reminder, if you're just joining us, in the questions tab, you can ask a question at any point, and we will answer those. And at the end, we'll allow you to turn on your microphone and you can ask a verbal question. I mentioned our website. Another good one is hurricanes.gov. You can get the same information, because we're all one weather service, from our main page. If you just go down to the tropical tab, everything's there, including preparedness, our briefing, and the weather, the Hurricane Center graphics. It's kind of a one-stop shop. So I would probably bookmark the tropical page. I mentioned in the beginning, our main page, your local forecast, and then tropical is probably the third one I would bookmark. This is one that Stacy and Norman and myself are always looking at. This is the tropical weather outlook. I know there's a little chance of something off of Africa, at least 24 hours ago. I haven't looked. This is an older graphic, but what this is it's an update 4 times a day. It's not a track. This is not where the storm's going to track. This is the potential area something could develop. And we give it a low, medium, or high chance if it's in red. And we also show named storms as well. So this is something I would look at every morning when you wake up, or every couple days, just to kind of keep aware. This will give you a heads up well before a storm might even get a name, well before it's even here. 5-10 seconds on this website to look at the outlook, and you'll know what's going on well ahead of anything forming. As we get closer, the storm's in the news. You're starting to hear about it on the national news. That's when I want you to focus on the official forecast path, which is on the lower right. You should be familiar with this. I want to talk a little bit about what this represents. A lot of people see this and say everywhere shaded is going to be impacted by the storm. Everywhere outside doesn't have to worry about it. It's not the case. This only shows the most probable path for the center of the storm. So based on statistics, most of the time, the very, very center of the tropical cyclone is going to go somewhere in this path, either the right side, the left side, or right down the middle. And you'll see it's very narrow at the start, and it gets wider out toward day 4 or 5. Statistically, we're good out to 3 days, and then there starts to be some questions day 4 and 5. So that's why the path is wider. Has nothing to do with the storm size. For example, this is Florence. This is the path. Notice this big orange circle representing the hurricane, or the tropical storm force winds, extends beyond the path. Notice the hurricane force winds almost extend beyond the path. So this only shows you where the center of the storm is expected to go. Is a hurricane a dot on the map? No. Were we impacted by the center of Florence, which passed to our south in Wrightsville Beach? Yes. So if you're anywhere in the general vicinity of this path, you should pay attention. So in this example, even residents, Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida, and then up the Delmarva, New Jersey, Delaware, down through Virginia, should be paying attention on this example. So it does not show you who will be impacted and who won't. It just shows you the most likely area for where the center will pass. A couple other useful graphics. These are, again, on the Hurricane Center site. They're included in our briefings, and they are on our tropical page. Again, this tropical page, I would definitely write this down, bookmark it, save it. Everything's there, from prep to the briefings to Hurricane Center graphics. This is called the earliest time of arrival. This is a reasonable worst case of when we think the 39-mile-per-hour winds will get there. 39, why did you pick that? That's roughly when, you should be off the roads. You should complete your plans. A lot of emergency planners, they focus on that wind threshold. So that's a graphic that we show. So if you look at this, we still speak in terms of general terms, I wouldn't say Wednesday, 8 o'clock, these winds could get here in Onslow County. I say sometime Wednesday night is the earliest you could expect tropical storm force winds from Florence. This is an actual graphic. This is when you should complete your plans. So for me, working long days, my kid's ready. My plan to evacuate or not, my family is ready, but I've got a big garden. I like growing roses. I've got yard work. I got to, get the house ready. This is my drop dead, working long hours. I come home, whatever daylight I have, and I'm constantly doing stuff in the yard. And I know if I've got it done by Wednesday evening, I'm good to go. This is a reasonable worst case scenario. The contrast to that is most likely would be when we actually think those winds will get here. And this is an example from Tropical Storm Arthur. And again, if this was for this event, we would say sometime Monday morning, we could expect tropical storm force winds in Onslow County. So earliest reasonable is hey, if I'm done by this time, I'm good to go. Most likely is when we actually expect it to get here. Welcome to those folks that continue to join us. You're not too late. It's not a problem at all. We have about another 15 minutes of the presentation. You can ask a question at any point. And for those that have just joined us or those that may have to leave, remember a couple things. Number one, you can download that PDF now so you can skim through the presentation. We are recording this. We'll post it to YouTube. I'm back on the work shift tomorrow, and I'll email it out by tomorrow afternoon. So if you're just joining us or you have to step away, no worries. This is being recorded, and you will be able to see it via our YouTube channel tomorrow. So the rest of the presentation, now that we said weather.gov/Morehead City, went over a couple Hurricane Center graphics, I wanted you to remember our website. The second thing I want you to remember, the two biggies, do not focus on just the category of the storm. This scale you see is very, very useful for wind because it is a hurricane wind scale. Think about how many times you have said, or you've heard family members say, or you've heard neighbors say, I'm not going to leave unless it's a 2. I'm not going to leave unless it's a 3. I've been through a 2 before. I'm not leaving unless it's a 4. The category of the storm is only related to wind. I'm not saying ignore it. I'm not saying when Florence was a 4, I wasn't worried. I lived 3 miles from the ocean, so I was certainly concerned. The category is part of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle. This does not say anything about rainfall. It doesn't say that it's going to sit over us for 3 days. It doesn't tell us our tornado threat. It says nothing about rip currents. It doesn't tell us if it's moving fast or slow. It doesn't tell us if it's going to hit to our south, so we're on the right or worse side. It doesn't tell us it's hitting to our right and we are on the weaker side. It only is related to wind. So if you get anything else out of this talk, please tell your friends, your neighbor, and remind yourself the category is important for wind only. Please focus on all of the impacts, not just the category. Again, backing things up with statistics, 2010 to 2019, we've had a bunch of just category 1s. And I put it in quotes because I wouldn't quote these storms as being just 1s in terms of impact. Do you remember Irene? Maybe Sandy, maybe Tropical Storm Hermine, Matthew, probably remember that one. I know you remember Florence if you were here 3 years ago, and then Dorian, especially if you're toward Ocracoke and then Emerald Isle with the tornado. Almost 200 deaths and almost over $100 billion of damage from just 1s. Re-emphasizing the category is only related to wind. There's a lot of other impacts that occur with any tropical cyclone. I put all the big ones at the top for a reason. You're going to see why in a second. Rainfall, storm surge, rip currents, wind, tornadoes. Do we have issues with wind, with power and communication? Most certainly. But generally speaking, it's at the lower end in terms of what will actually kill you in a tropical cyclone. So this is a graphic we've shown for a while. 1963 to 2012 in the United States, fatalities about half, 50%, were storm surge related. Another third were rain. So when you mix in surf and offshore conditions, about 90% of deaths through 2012 were water related. Wind-wise, Will it mess up, your trees, your yard? May you not have power for many days? Yes. But in terms of actually killing you because of fallen trees on cars or houses, about 8% chance through 2012. So through 2012, water, water, water. Eric, it's 2021. Don't you have anything newer? Yes, but I want to show you the progression. We've made some improvements, but there's still some more improvements we need to do. 2016 to 2018, 83% were water related. So still water, water, water. We made some big strides with storm surge. Only about 4% of people were storm surge related deaths with the storms during that time frame. And we had a lot of biggies, including Florence with the surge in our area and up the Neuse River in New Bern. So we've improved with storm surge messaging, but still a lot of people are dying because of water, and a lot of those people are in vehicles, and that's where I need your help. On the right, the same time period, half of the deaths that were water related were in vehicles. These are preventable deaths, people going around barricades, people driving through flooded roads, and not knowing how bad it is, how strong that water is. And we have very rural parts of the county. The road might not even be there. It might not be a lot of water on top, but you don't know the depth because the road itself may have been washed away. Now we go forward to just last year, 47 direct deaths, 31 water related. And then 10 of those, 7 were from Ada in North Carolina, the western part of the state, later in the fall. So please, please, please remember the campaign, turn around, don't drown. Those are preventable deaths. It's not where the water comes up. I live along the New River and it comes up and, oh, I didn't know it was going to happen. It was, I'm trying to get back from evacuating. I'm trying to get somewhere and I go through something I shouldn't, or through something I wasn't aware it was as bad as it was. So we are a science-based organization. We will continue to try to get it more right. The track, the amount, we're not always right, obviously, but we're getting a lot better. Where we need to do a better job at is people like me communicating the threat. So this is an example on the left. This is Florence, the forecast for 5-day rainfall. This is the track of Florence, so just to our south. And the prediction was for 15 to 25, 30 inches of rain. So we knew it was going to be a lot of rain. Sometimes on the northern edge, how far north does it get? Obviously questions with that, but by and large, hey, got a lot of rain coming our way, and a lot of rain fell. This is the example on the right, pretty close to what actually happened. So the science was right. We knew what was going to happen. Doing briefings, the county's ready. We're all ready. We still lost 17 people and 16 were in vehicles. So please spread that message. A lot of us may have been here for years and years, and you say, Eric, you're preaching to the choir. We have a beautiful area, a lot of new people coming in each year, a strong military presence, cycling out every 2 to 3 years. They may be from San Diego, they may be from the Midwest, and they have never been through a storm. Please tell them. So when you hear them before storms saying, I'm not gonna leave, it's just a 1, remind them that, hey, we're getting 20 inches of rain. All right, you're deciding to stay. Be careful of water, it's the biggest killer. Don't go driving around and cross any flooded roads. As far as storm surge goes, that's another huge aspect. These are some pictures from New Bern. I'll play the video from Ocracoke. And just, the rate of rise from a storm surge can come up so quick. On Ocracoke, there's about a 4 to 7 foot rise in about 15 minutes. So again, that's in the forecast, but it's hard to grasp something that hadn't happened before. For most people, had never experienced that on Ocracoke, that rate of rise. So storm surge can be deadly because of the rate of rise. And it's not just coastal areas. Any bodies of water that are connected to the ocean itself that can see that rise, it can happen. So we do issue products for that. They're called storm surge watches and warnings. And what I meant by that is a lot of focus is along the beachfront, along our coastline. New Bern, if you were there in Irene, you might not have been caught off guard. But if you were new to New Bern, you might say, I'm 45 minutes inland. How in the world could I have any storm surge? A northeast wind off the Pamlico funnels that water right up the Neuse River and can cause some problems, as we saw for sure. So please keep that in mind. The eastern part of Onslow County, Swansboro, another area that can get storm surge off of Bogue Sound. And No two storms are alike. We had worse storm surge flooding with Irene in Swansboro than we did Florence. So it's going to vary storm to storm. Don't think, hey, because I'm okay during the past couple storms, I don't have to worry about it. Some of those sounds in the eastern part of the county can certainly get it, and into Jacksonville itself, Camp Lejeune is definitely can be impacted by the surge across the southern part of the county. So if you get a storm surge watch, or if we upgrade to a warning, meaning it's going to happen, that means 3 feet or higher of life-threatening storm surge. And we say a kind of a confusing term, above normally dry ground. What does that mean? If I live, along the Sound, along the river, and I live in an area that's usually dry, in those low-lying areas near the water, it can be 3, 4, 5 feet higher above the ground in those areas than when it normally is. So we'll give out watches and warnings. You will get those on your phone unless you turn off the government alerts. Those are big ones that come through. And we'll also show you these potential storm surge maps. Again, that's kind of what I mentioned in the beginning. A reasonable worst case, 10% chance. In this example, this is the Noose up to 9 feet. And then what happened was about 9 to 13 in New Bern. So again, the southern part of the county especially can be impacted by this, not just those at the beach itself. A lot of people think of Topsail itself. Obviously, they can be impacted, but also through Camp Lejeune, southern part of Jacksonville, east towards Swansboro, roughly south of Highway 24. If you're in those low-lying areas by the sounds and the little creeks that come off of them, you can be at risk for that. So please keep that in mind with regards to storm surge. This is a graphic that started last year. It will continue this year. It's kind of something that you could share on social media, and the news will use it a lot, just to kind of step back and what do we expect overall for storm surge versus a zoomed in perspective. So we covered water, inland flooding, or just flooding in general, storm surge. Rip currents is another one. Rip currents, you swimming during a storm. Usually what I'm talking about is not so much in the storm itself. I'm talking about well before storm, well after, or from a distant storm. So the distant storm example is our second deadliest storm in 2019. So we remember Dorian, but there's 19 direct deaths, water-related deaths due to Lorenzo, and 8 of those on the East Coast were rip current related, 4 in North Carolina alone. It was 2,000 miles away, the northernmost Category 5 storm on record. Beautiful, stretch of beach weather, 80s and sunny, and it doesn't look ominous, but you have these high energy swells approaching the coast, and that often is our most deadly time at the beach. And think about it, you're a family from New Jersey, New York, Raleigh, you pay for a week at the beach, the storm is not anywhere close to you, you might be unaware of those risks. The other thing is, prior to a storm, the days leading up to it, storm's not going to hit until Sunday, I check out on Friday, I'm good to go. Thursday, you might have rip currents well ahead of the storm, and that's why we include that messaging in our briefings, because it is an impact just as if flooding and wind and things like that. If you see a graphic like this on social media, especially those high-risk days, help us. If we're the only ones sending this out, not as many people see it. We're not a TV station. We're part of the federal government. We fall under the Department of Commerce, NOAA, Weather Service. We rely on the county officials, the local broadcasters, and the public to help us get that message out. So if you see graphics like these, please share them. And whether you've got people, you're down in North Topsail, you've got family down there, people are headed that way, please help us share those messages as you can. 2 more threats, then I'm going to turn it over to you. Again, if you just joined us at any point, there's a question section. You can ask those questions. Stacy is on from Onslow County, so if we've got any county-specific questions, we will answer those. And then at the end of the talk, if you want to raise your hand and talk to us, you can do that as well. So this picture is from my neighborhood. We certainly saw wind in Florence. These are some of the wind values. The biggest thing with Florence probably wasn't the number itself. If you stayed here, you certainly remember this. It was the longevity, day after day, maybe not that strong the whole time, but when you have 20 to 30 inches of rain and continuous wind, trees that were strong gradually uproot, and lots of issues with power outages, blocked roads. And then we're going to talk about this. We had a lot of tornadoes, but a lot of the area just saw severe wind damage, and people thought a tornado came through, and that was a long-lived Category 1 storm of which came through. So wind is to be respected. We use the category scale for that, but to re-emphasize, not to just focus on it, we're going to talk a little bit about Arthur versus Irene. Arthur, the 2014 version, not last year, was a Category 2 storm, hit between Beaufort and Cape Lookout. So we were on the left side of the storm. Most of the wind was over toward the Outer Banks. Coastal Onslow County from Jacksonville, especially Highway 17 and 24 south, tropical storm force winds, maybe 30 to 35, the northern part of the county. So not a huge impact, but it was a Category 2 storm, but it was a fast mover, smaller storm. What about Irene? Do you remember Irene? Comment in the questions part. I'd be curious if we have any folks that were here in 2011. It was just a 1, much bigger impact on our area. No tricks. It hit between Beaufort and Cape Lookout. The strongest winds, just to the near and right of the center. So again, acted very similar to most storms. So we had 90 to 100 mile per hour winds, the southeast or southwestern part of the Pamlico Sound through the Outer Banks. But it was a much larger storm, much slower moving. So similar to Florence in terms of impact, the wind was spread out. So strong tropical storm force winds across all of Onslow County. I don't have the graphic, but we also saw 5 to 15 inches of rain across eastern North Carolina. So just curious, I'll look at the chat. I'm curious if anybody was in, or in the questions, excuse me, was in here during Irene. I don't see anything yet. So just kind of pipe in if you were. Always like hearing those stories from the past, just historical, especially for new folks were here. So the one comment, Irene was before their time. Florence was the first one, and unfortunately this person saw damage. So a lot of us saw some sort of damage with Florence. So another person said Irene, they remember Irene, first big hurricane after moving here. So what a welcome to eastern North Carolina. This person moved in, they had Irene. We heard similar things with Florence, people just moving here, and that was their first storm. So we're going to end with tornadoes. That is something we can certainly get, and we saw that with Florence, with the amount, but also with Dorian out ahead of it. The tornado threat is there for any tropical cyclone. Doesn't even have to be a hurricane. Tropical depression, tropical storm, Hermine, we had that. This is Dorian. Just because the cyclone is spinning, there's an inherent risk for tornadoes. And the other tricky thing is we're so focused on where does the storm hit, what's the category, how much rain, all important. But these impacts with a tornado can occur well ahead of the storm. So those outer bands, like Dorian, the first bands they got on here, we got some reports of some tornadoes down toward New Hanover County, some funnels, or maybe even tornadoes, I can't remember, in Onslow County. So it was just a crazy morning. I remember doing briefings and then walking out into operations after they issued a tornado warning and seeing this tornado on camera. It was almost like it was Oklahoma with the Bogue Inlet Pier, the Bogue Pier camera there. So the important thing to remember is damage can occur well away from the center. So either, well before landfall. So that gets back to, hey, have your plans complete by that earliest arrival time graphic, and they can occur well away from the center itself. And for some, you can get worse damage from the tornado than the hurricane. So for example, for most of us, for Dorian, not substantial storm, aside from Ocracoke and Hatteras Island, but Emerald Isle would have escaped with not much going on, but they had the tornado. This is the example of Florence, a whole bunch, including across Onslow County, of tornadoes, but this is the landfall down toward Wrightsville Beach, and these are tornadoes that occurred up toward Richmond days later. So emphasizing tornadoes are at risk. You're probably already prepared. So what more can you do? Make sure your phone is on and charged. Make sure your NOAA weather radio it has a battery backup and is plugged in. So if the power goes out, you've got the batteries. You want these two things because you're probably not out shopping, you're probably not outside, but you're already hunkered down. When you get a warning for a tornado, know that the winds could be even stronger than what occurred with the hurricane, and that's time to get to your lowest level of your home. Often they spin up really quick, and you might not have a long time to get downstairs. So the last 2 slides, we continue to try to improve our messaging on water, 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 turn around, don't drown. And the other one we want to hammer home, indirect fatalities. You've got your hurricane kit, you've evacuated, you've stayed, whatever you've done, be careful in the days following the storm itself. Power's out, water's high by your area. There's a lot of inherent dangers because things are not back to normal yet. You're cleaning up your house. You're not used to being up on a ladder, falling off, those types of things. And the other one is carbon monoxide. Please get a carbon monoxide detector in your home. I know for me, we have a ton of smoke detectors in our house, but a couple of them are those dual, smoke detector and carbon monoxide. I'm no expert. Stacy can comment here at the end, but 16 of our 34 deaths with Hurricane Laura last year were carbon monoxide related. And in fact, in the last 4 years, we've lost more people because of carbon monoxide poisoning than storm surge. So we're talking generators, in your garage or in your house or too close to the house and the fumes are being blown in. It's a silent killer. You don't know about it. Real easy fix. Know how to use a generator, and then just as importantly, get a carbon monoxide detector in your home so that you know that if you're at risk for something going on. The other indirect death are cardiovascular issues, especially affecting people over 60 years old. So again, take it easy. You've made it through the storm. You're cleaning up your yard. It's not a race to do it. Have family members help you. Have neighbors help you. Don't let your guard down between the carbon monoxide, overworking yourself, and doing things after the storm itself. So that is it, 45 minutes of hurricane preparedness. So I know we crammed a lot of information. Some of you have just joined us. Some may have had to step away. You've got my email at the bottom of the screen. Again, you can download this presentation as a PDF by just clicking on the handout section. By tomorrow, I will send you a link to this so you can download it if you didn't get a chance. And also this recording will be posted on YouTube, so you will be set. I know that this might have been some new information for some of you. Like I said in the beginning, please share this with neighbors. A lot of new folks moving to our area because it's fantastic, and a lot of military coming in and out of the area that may have little to no experience with the ocean and tropical systems in general. So please, please, please help us get this information out into the community. So at this point, I'm going to hop out of the presentation. Stacy, you can hop back on if we've got any questions. I'm going to pull up our website while we wait for any questions to come in. So I can see, I will load those up. Again, if you want to ask a question, just ask it in the question window. If you want to ask a verbal question, raise your hand, the raised hand feature, and I will call on you. While we wait for those to come in, Stacy, this is our website. Again, weather.gov/Morehead City. If you click anywhere on the map, I'm going to pick on Jacksonville, and you will get a detailed forecast along with the closest airport. So the current information, our 7-day forecast, and then this is a Google map I was talking about. The forecast in our neck of the woods won't change a great deal, but if you do some hiking in Boone or Asheville, West Virginia for Stacy, if you click on a different part of the map, the elevation will change. And again, ours, we don't have a huge change in elevation in Eastern North Carolina, but you can, go over toward Piney Green instead of Jacksonville and get a specific forecast for that area. Bookmark that, and this will be your 7-day forecast for that specific point. On the page itself, if you scroll to the bottom, lots of icons. The one I want you to remember is this tropical weather one. If you bookmark that as well, you've got a one-stop shop for everything. Remember that tropical outlook I was talking about, the little chance coming off of Africa? Here's that graphic, both on satellite and a regular view. It's got a medium chance now of development. Our briefings are highlighted right there if we have them, social media as well, and then preparedness. Lots of preparedness videos and information, and I'm biased, but I made our local page, so I'm real happy with it. You click on that, and you can get it day by day set up like Hurricane Awareness Week. So I have done enough blabbing. Let's see if anybody else wants to talk. And Stacy, if you needed to add anything, you can go for it. I'll look to see if we've got questions.
Eric, I just wanted to thank you, obviously, for offering this presentation for Onslow County, and to the participants. I'm not able to actually see any of the chat comments.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Eric, if anything comes through, just let me know.
Okay, I will do that, and I'm going to make you organizer so you'll see it. Just don't close out because it'll shut everything down. So you should be able to see them now. I'll field them for you as well. So far we've just gotten comments. Folks watching from Craven County. We've got some comments on Irene, but I don't see any questions. We'll give it another minute, and I'll look at the attendees. If anybody has a verbal question, just click on the raised hand. I will unmute you. Otherwise, we'll get back to enjoying our nice, comfortable evening. It's not often we have not a humid evening across the area in late June, for sure. So I don't see anything, Stacy. I don't usually we see them by now, so that's no problem. We appreciate everybody joining us tonight. And Stacy, as we mentioned before, this is being recorded, so we'll send this out to the group by tomorrow afternoon. And really appreciate everybody joining us.
Thank you all.
Take care now.